Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's NBA trade deadline spectacular here on the Advantage Sports Betting Podcast. We have an amazing show in store where we are going to review every single trade that has gone down pretty much this week of the NBA trade deadline, starting with Luka and Anthony Davis in the shocker of the century, the biggest trade, the biggest surprise to hit the NBA in my lifetime. We will review every single transaction. We will talk basketball angles. We will talk betting angles. We will give our opinions on the trade. We are going to weave in some amazing and relevant NBA clips. Have you guys seen Luka and LeBron shooting together? We're showing it. Have you seen De'Aaron Fox's highlight tape in his first game in San Antonio going against the Hawks? We're showing it. Have you seen the funniest moments from Luka's Mavericks career, Chris Middleton and Giannis together? We are reminiscing. We are looking forward. We are rejoicing. There is so much that is going to go down. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. There's over 250 people in the room already. We really appreciate that. Before we start, if everyone could please just like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you are not familiar with our content, I think you will enjoy this. We go live every single day, Monday through Friday, usually at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and we break down every single game from a gambling angle. Today, we switched it up because it would be a little bit ridiculous to go live this morning and talk about what was going to happen when so much of the NBA landscape was about to change. So we have so much to go over. We have 6 NBA All-Stars since the year 2020 have already been dealt. Luka, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, Chris Middleton, Brandon Ingram, De'Aaron Fox. 6 NBA All-Stars have been traded in the last week. This is absolutely insane. The deadline of the year. I am joined none other than the man who's not in his Raptors hat for once in a blue moon.
Wow, it's still a Raptors hat. I can't find
my It's still
a
Raptors hat, but I couldn't see because it's all black on the screen. But we are joined by professional poker player Drew Johnson. We are going to go over every single deal, my friend. However long this show takes us, trust me, it will be worth it. I think it is going to be the best show of the year. Any thoughts before we jump into this?
This is the trade deadline that keeps on giving. Never seen anything like this. I think this has a lot to do with the new CBA. We're going to get into that at some point, I'm sure. It's been a phenomenal week. I haven't slept as much as I would have liked, but that's typical this time of year.
Let's start it off, Drew, with none other than BI to the Raptors. When this trade went down, we know you're a resident Raptors fan. We lean on you for the Raptors gambling angles. We know you're more tapped in and noticing the shifts in the team and, oh, this team's getting defensive. Now they're getting healthy. Now they're starting to play really well. And this is a sign that all of that stuff has been true. They make the plunge and go get a 27, 28-year-old at the start of next season, all-star, potential, shades of superstar at time in this league and kind of fallen off in his time with the Pelicans. Can he reemerge as he reaches his prime? Here is the full deal of Ingram to the Raptors. Brandon Ingram goes from the Pelicans to the Raptors. Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, 2 guys that really weren't playing this year much for the Raptors, go back to the Pelicans. We're looking at a lot of their win totals and strength of schedules. We will show that in a bit. But my friend, just give me your overall reaction, because I know you weren't too thrilled to know that they were engaged, ramping up, getting close on the 5-yard line, and so much more. It got over the line. The deal got done. Brandon Ingram's now on your team. What are the thoughts? Because I had an assumption that you wouldn't be too happy, but I actually have a different opinion.
I had hoped for more, basically. There were rumors earlier in the week that Zion might be on the board and that the Raptors were after him first and foremost. And then as those talks faded, they went sort of with Ingram. Kind of a lateral move to me. I don't necessarily like giving up the draft capital that we did to get this done. Specifically the second. If we could have avoided giving that second up, I understand you got to give up a first to get a guy like Ingram. But I also just think like we're kind of in the same spot we were 2 years ago, last year, where we have a bit of a log jam of 6'9" guys at wing and nowhere to play them all. So, like, who's starting for us when we have 4 of those guys, right? Between Barnes, Ingram now, Barrett, Grady Dick, some other guys, right? I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's been and Boucher.
You kind of have 4 wing players
Yeah.
that could fill any position in RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and Grady Dick. The question becomes, does Scotty Barnes play a little small ball 5 and play those Warriors death lineups where you're surrounded by defensive guys, shooting guys, a little bit of space everywhere, some length, but also not too tall. You could still run out in transition. Is Grady Dick going back to the bench now and becoming a bench scorer? Do they end up moving on from maybe Quickly or Barrett or Dick himself, because it's really Ingram and Barnes into the future? So yeah, it we'll see what this Raptors starting lineup shakes out to be. I do think it's interesting that if we look at the gambling market and what's happened there before the trade and after the trade, the win total did not change one bit. Obviously, a lot of that is dependent on Brandon Ingram's ankle injury and the fact that he's probably still going to miss some time. I don't think he's going to come back and play right away. So their current record is 16-35. It's a 31.5% win clip. Their over under is 26.5, Drew. Betting wise, do we think they can go over? Do we think they can go 11 and however much they need to? They have the easiest strength of schedule for the rest of the season. They play the worst schedule in the league in terms of current record in the NBA. And this is clearly a move for them to go, we're going to try and improve. We're no longer in the Cooper flag sweepstakes. We have been playing well. Let's push in. Let's start this rebuild. Let's start the momentum now. And we could try and bring that through to next season. So any gambling opinion on trying to get to 27 wins on a 26.5 over under. We're also working with an under 31.5 from a preseason total. So is now the time to open up a middle? Do you just ride that under 31.5? How do you feel about the win total, the current record, and the rest of the season here for the Raptors with the easiest schedule in the league?
I think the over is the play, especially considering it's only minus 105 right now. This team has shown that they can stay, that they even when they were injured, they were staying in games against good teams. So with them going against sort of the dregs of the league for going forward from now, I would expect them to get 11, 12 wins over the course of the next 35 games. I don't think it's going to be ridiculously difficult to do that, especially considering they're kind of out of the tank now, right? Like, I don't think you can say that they're going after flag. They're not going to try and get an over top 5 overall pick this year. It's just all the other teams in those tanking markets are going to want to lose to the Raptors. And I think the fan base, from what I'm gathering, is kind of saying that this is a good trade. Masai does it again, blah, blah, blah. As the first rounder we gave up isn't that big of a deal, considering it's Indiana, as they're a playoff team, all of those kinds of things that go with that. I could see them making the play in, like that is in the realm of possibility. So if I'm thinking that, I think this over is kind of more of the play than having them make the play in, considering the lack of juice.
Yeah, if we look at the standings right now, they're 13th in the East. They are one game behind the Nets, who probably go the other direction. I would assume the Raptors climb over the Nets. They're 4 games in front of the 76ers. Who knows how that works out? They're 6 games behind the Chicago Bulls. They're going to have to climb, certainly, the Chicago Bulls, who are now going the other direction. And the Hawks ended up becoming big sellers today, too. I just don't think that they can climb 3 of these teams. You have to climb the Nets. You have to climb 6 games against the Bulls. And then you also have to climb either 4 games or 7 games against the 76ers and the Hawks, who I don't think are going to be any worse than the Raptors are going to be now. They'd really have to rely on that weak strength of schedule. They'd really have to push for that, last play-in spot and really go for it. I don't think that's what the Raptors end up doing. So it's kind of a total where they look towards the win total. look towards that over 27. Drew, have you seen some Brandon Ingram highlights? Do you know what you're getting in this man? I think it's a complete heist. I think it's an amazing deal for the Raptors. If I was in your shoes, I would be fucking excited. So let me try and console you. Let me try and get you a little bit excited. Let me try and get you ready for BI on the Raptors. Here's the few thoughts that I had. You can't realistically, no offense, expect to land a big free agent up in Toronto. Very few people who want to be a star in the NBA want to leave the continental US and go play up in Canada. It's still a basketball city, but it's a different country. They speak some different languages there in certain pockets of Canada. So it's very unrealistic to think that you're going to get a big marquee free agent. So you either have to do it through the draft or through trades. There are 3 ways to build a team in this league: trades, draft, free agency. A team like the Lakers has access to all 3, right? They can pull any of those levers. It's a team like the Raptors that has to ratchet up the draft one and has to ratchet up the trade at the right time. So this becomes, I think, traded at the right time. If we're talking about the Nets holding on to Cam Johnson because they didn't get 2 first-round picks, and we're getting Brandon Ingram for 1 and a second, BI's an all-star. He's about to be 28 years old at the start of next season. His birthday's in September as he turns 28. So at the end of this year is still 27. Going into next season, he's a 28-year-old entering his absolute prime. And they have some other competitive pieces. And they're going to have some length around the perimeter. They're going to be switchable. They do have an impressive young coach. They do have a great basketball city. And so, I really like what you ended up getting at Ingram. It's a slightly different type of player, but I trust this Raptors organization to make it work and fit the pieces around it. It might be sometimes a little bit frustrating to watch. We'll see does he stop playing as much mid-range? Does he step out and take more 3-pointers? Does he drive to the hole? But do not forget how good Brandon Ingram really is when he's healthy and when he's playing and when he's fucking balling. And of course, we always show some clips on this show. It's what makes this gambling podcast probably the best. It's not just the sharpest takes. It's not just a consistently winning record. It's weaving in topics and fun stories that happen from the NBA into the show. And when we know we're talking about Brandon Ingram, if you've been around these parts, you know what's coming. Brandon Ingram and Anthony Simons have a baby with the same woman. And there was a game where Brandon Ingram is going when he's on the Pelicans, is going against Simons and the Blazers, and BI hits a game winner over Anthony, and Trey Murphy comes off the bench. And Drew, what does Trey Murphy say? Tell her who better. Tell her who better. So let's run some BI highlights and get you a little pumped up.
One of the more interesting stories last night from Pelicans Trailblazers. Brandon Ingram hit a game winner over Anthony Simons, and they actually allegedly share a baby mother. So
Yo, what up, Kels? Wanna introduce you to this girl. Think I really love this girl. Yeah, man, she's so fine. Straight up dog. She stand about 5'4", Coca-Cola red bone. Damn. She drive a black Durango, license plate say Angel. Tattoo on her ankle, and she's making pesos. Got a crib on Peachtree, right on 17th Street, and I call her TT.
Wait a minute, hold on, dog. Do she got it?
All right.
Tell
her who better. Yeah, it could work out. I as always trust in Masai. He knows what he's doing. If he made the trade, it was probably a good trade. We'll get to types of GMs in the league a little later.
Have you heard Brandon Ingram talk about what he thinks about Toronto, Drew? Do you know what he thinks about your city?
No, I don't. Other than it's probably cold, because it's cold.
I think this, not only the highlight package, Brandon Ingram talking about what he thinks of the city of Toronto might get you a little excited to welcome this man home.
What would you guys say if the cities?
Miami and LA, Toronto, New York, Toronto,
It's a solid city. Great food.
Yeah, Toronto, New York, and Dallas.
All right. All right.
There we go. Eyebrows.
You're warming
raised.
me up. You're warming me up. Let's go. Let's go. The Raptors could be okay.
You have a all-star player coming in who hits game winners on the guy who has a baby with the same woman as him, and then says, I love Toronto in the same breath as LA and Miami, dude. Welcome to the Raptors, Brandon Ingram. Grade the trade, Drew. A, B, C. What are you thinking?
Definitely a B for sure. Like I just want to say that I'm more just disappointed. I thought that maybe the Raptors could swing something for a star. This is the next best thing, so definitely a B.
I'm gonna give it B plus.
All right. I don't like giving up the second. I feel like with his injury history and all of that kind of stuff, like if this trade was done without that second rounder, I would have been all for it. Oh, damn.
All right, the next trade that we're going to go over is Chris Middleton being traded for Kyle Kuzma from the from the Wizards to the Milwaukee Bucks. So let's start this show off in this part of the discussion with a little Chris Middleton tribute, because there's always one clip that we remember when it becomes Chris Middleton and his time with the Bucks and his time with Giannis and them getting over the hump, winning a championship, beating the Phoenix Suns in the finals, and that moment on the court between Giannis and Chris was a beautiful thing between two teammates.
A rarity, Giannis, to be able to play 8 years with a teammate, let alone win a championship together in those 8 years. How would you describe what Chris Middleton means to you?
Okay, you did it, huh? You did it.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this past and don't ask why. It's not a question, but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Thoughts on, I think you had a different reaction to the deal than me. So I will let you go first, because I feel like you're more pessimistic on this acquisition for the Bucks. I don't think we need to discuss it from the landscape of what do we think of Middleton landing on the Washington Wizards. Will not be discussed on this show. Let's take it from the Milwaukee Bucks angle, Drew. How do you feel about them bringing in Kuzma and replacing Chris Middleton?
I think this was done entirely for money reasons, and I don't like breaking up Giannis and Middleton. Middleton was the last guy, second last guy, third last guy from the championship squad, and we're only 4 years removed from that, right? I felt that he was a good piece, especially come playoff time, right? How many shots has Chris Middleton hit in clutch time in the playoffs?
Plenty.
He does a little better than that, to be honest with you. So I just felt that I don't think they're better with Kuzma. I actually think they're kind of worse. He doesn't space the floor as well. He's probably a wash on the defensive end with Middleton, even now. Like, Middleton's a smart defender if he doesn't have the same first step that he used to. And I don't think that you fuck with the chemistry, especially at this point, right? Because it's kind of championship or bust this year. So your idea as the GM in a championship or bust year with Giannis obviously still under contract, but do you think he's really going to want to stick around if they get bounced in the second round in 5 games and the coach is fired at the end of the year immediately? Like, this is.
I think when we have the Luka discussion, and possibly we'll play the clip, but based on what Giannis said about the Luka trade, I do not think Giannis is staying in Miami. I mean, in Milwaukee. I would say
I don't think so either.
It's a minus 500 bet, a minus 500 line that Giannis will play elsewhere in the next 5 years. But
yeah,
flip side of that, when Kuzma was on the Lakers and they won the championship, like, he has a ring as the third fiddle to a team, pun intended. He was a really good defender, backdoor cutter. Like, he would get scrappy. He was a good rebounder. This team is missing rebounding a lot with Lopez as their main center and him kind of aging out. So I actually think from a little bit of a defensive, from a little bit of an energy, from a little bit of a tempo and things, this actually kind of helps them. It's definitely different, and it's definitely not as good against the Celtics. That's really where
that's true.
Is like Middleton is really good against the Celtics. He shows up in clutch times. He can hit some really big shots. He could be a creator and a distributor, but defensively, I think Kuzma's clearly a step up. For pace and tempo, I think Kuzma's clearly a step up. For rebounding, which I think is a big hole that this team needs, it's a big step up. So I actually think it's a slight upgrade, but I'm not going to go too far into saying it changes much of the trajectory of the Milwaukee Bucks. And for that reason, I don't really think there's much of an angle to discuss from the betting component. Like, you'd much rather play game to games right now than try and target a win total on the Bucks. They haven't changed too drastically. This is not a championship move for us that brings them over the hump. It's not something that's going to make you want to short them and start selling them the other direction. So just kind of reminiscing on Chris's time in Milwaukee, traded from the Detroit Pistons during Giannis's rookie season. So those guys have been together. Those guys have been brothers for a long time. We will see where Middleton ends up. I actually think Middleton is a prime buyout candidate. And so I don't think he stays on the Wizards. I think, and we'll discuss this in a few trades, I think we know where Middleton's going to end up. And I actually think, Drew, this kind of goes full circle, where it was like the Celtics getting Drew Holiday in an offshoot of the Damian Lillard trade. Remember how like the Bucks make these deals, and the Bucks maybe get a little bit better bringing in Dame instead of Drew. People can have their opinions on that, but I think Drew was getting a little bit over the hump, and Dame is clearly still better. I think this is going to make other teams even better by accident. So when I will give you my take when we get to another deal, because it becomes very relevant to another team. But I think we know where Chris Middleton's going to end up. And I actually think it's not the Bucks that got the best end of this deal. It's the team that's going to end up getting Chris Middleton. Drop in the chat if you think you know where Chris Middleton is going to end up. But really, we need to segue this conversation to probably the most important trade that went down yesterday. The topic that I'm probably most excited to discuss is Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors. Jimmy Buckets finally gets his way out of Miami after a feud, a PR battle, a who's going to win the interview war between Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley, with suspensions, with extensions, with all of this drama. Jimmy Butler wins the war. Pat Riley might have taken a few battles, but Jimmy Butler gets what he wants. He plays his best James Harden card to throw a fucking fit and to get out of a place that he wants and to go somewhere else that's going to be a good place for him to play with some competitive talent and sign a new contract. Do you think James Harden is watching all of this and going like, all right, hold my beer. Let me shake up this shit a little bit. Like Jimmy just pulled the best James Harden that James Harden's ever seen.
Yeah.
So Jimmy obviously has done some amazing things in Miami. What was really cool is watching the Miami Heat bench find out about the Jimmy Butler trade. We will go through the details. We will go through everything. But first, watch the Miami Heat players find out about the Jimmy trade, because they were playing against the Philadelphia 76ers last night when the trade broke. And the Warriors were about to go on the court against the Utah Jazz, and they're out there for warmups like 30 minutes before tip, and all of the Warriors players get brought back into the locker room. And then the news breaks, and then, only Podziemski and Curry and those guys come back out, and Wiggins and Kyle Anderson, Schroeder, they're leaving the arena. Schroeder would end up on the Jazz, who they're playing at the time. He's being rerouted to the Pistons right now. But I'm like, why doesn't Schroeder just flip his jersey inside out or have one of the Jazz staff? This man could just switch locker rooms on the same day. But it was Tyler Hero. It was Jaime Jaquez. It was those guys on the Miami Heat bench finding out Jimmy Butler was just traded during their game against the 76ers. A courtside fan tells them and breaks down the deal. Here's the clip.
We got Kyle Anderson, Dennis Schroeder, and Andrew Wiggins.
Okay.
We robbed them. First round pick, protected.
Okay, I'm gonna look at it right now and bring it to you.
No, they didn't give out the year, no.
Wait, are you kidding?
I swear to God.
Please show me.
So he breaks down the trade. And let me throw up the banner of what it is. Butler to Golden State. Jimmy Butler goes to the Golden State Warriors. Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and now PJ Tucker are being routed to the Miami Heat. Lindy Waters III, Josh Richardson, and a second-round pick are going to the Detroit Pistons. And Dennis Schroeder was originally routed to the Jazz. Now he's being waived and going over to the Pistons as well. Jimmy Butler also gets a 2-year, $121 million extension as a 35-year-old. He will go into next season in his 36 and age 37 seasons, Drew, getting paid $60.5 million. Jimmy Butler had a player option for $50 million next year that he was seemingly going to opt into if not traded, so that he could orchestrate a opt-in and then trade in the summer to a team that would then extend him. It ends up getting done now. They are wiping away that player option for next year. So he is canceling it and opting out of that in order to sign an extension. So it essentially becomes one extra year on his deal and an extra $70 million, but obviously it's split up appropriately. So he's going to get roughly $60.5 million annually for the next 2 seasons to be paired up with Draymond Green and Steph Curry into their collective twilight years. Drew, do you think Jimmy Butler even plays 121 games for the Warriors over the next 2 years of that contract?
I would be very, very surprised if that happens. I would take the under, so to speak, if you're giving me that line.
I would take the under as well. Let's look at the last few years of Jimmy Butler's games played. Drew, I was shocked to learn that Buckets hasn't played in over 65 games since he left the Bulls. Since he hasn't played 65 games in a season since he left the Bulls. I'm talking Timberwolves. I'm talking Sixers. I'm talking Heat. There's been, and now Warriors. Here are in reverse chronological order. He played 60 games last year, 64 the year prior, 57, 52, 58, 55, 10, and 59. And then he was and then that's when he was in Chicago at the end of that. So it's been 8 years since he's hit 65 games in a season. He's now being paid $120 million over the next 2. He's going to be getting $1 million a game roughly. And this really becomes, can he hold it together? Can he stay healthy? Does he bring them another level of just talent above what the rest of the roster was? Does he create a big 3 in Golden State? Do they collectively work together in Steve Kerr's system? I was a bit pessimistic about this trade from both sides, so I kind of don't like it at all. What are your opinions before I shade your judgment?
I think it's a lateral move. I don't understand why you would trade a young Andrew Wiggins for Jimmy Butler. Like, to me, Andrew Wiggins is kind of the younger version of that without you could say without the clutch playoff gene. But honestly, he had a case for being the finals MVP until Curry went absolutely nuts in games 5 and 6, right? So why? It doesn't make any sense to me from the Warriors' perspective. And I think the Miami Heat completely fleeced them.
Fleece them. I'm from it from both perspectives. I don't like it for either team. I'm looking at this from the Miami side. I'll do the Miami side because you just said they fleeced them. I'm like, Jimmy Butler was saying 3 days ago, he was saying last week, if not traded, he was going to come back. And they're like, Jimmy, what happens if you're not traded? He's like, I'm going to ball. Yeah. I'm going to come back and I'm going to ball. I think the locker room issues would have been solved. I think he's still close with Hero and Bam and a lot of those guys. He's still a leader on that team. He would smooth it over with Spoelstra because we've seen them go at it for sure. So I'm like, if you brought back in Jimmy and then you go into the summer with then trying to let him opt in and then find a trade. Could you have just gotten either the same return? Can you have gotten a better return than this? Do you still get Wiggins? You're looking at it from the other side, from the Warriors side. Wiggins has not lived up to his contract after he won the NBA title with the Warriors that year. He was definitely the second best player on that title team throughout the playoff run. His rebounding was absolutely amazing when he was started to crash in from the wing. It was so well executed. So we'll have to see if Jimmy can fill that role. And the Warriors play a lot of motion offense. They play a whole movement scheme around Kerr with Podzemski, with Draymond being a backdoor slasher and finding the cutters. Jimmy Butler very much operates in half court. He operates in isolation. He likes to jab step you. He likes to hold the ball for 4 seconds and determine how he's going to break you down. He likes to pump fake you, get you up in the air, and draw the foul. And he is so good at doing it. It's just very different from the style of basketball that the Warriors play. So I almost was like, this is not for me, Drew. The reason why I was like down on it is because I didn't feel that it was a needle mover from either side. And I do feel that Jimmy Butler is a needle mover in general, but I didn't think that this was a needle mover for the Warriors to get over the hump because I don't love the fit. I don't think it's a needle mover for Miami to need to get better this year to bring in Andrew Wiggins, to bring him into the system. Kyle Anderson, we'll see where he ends up. Is he going to end up in Miami? Does he get waived? Does he get bought out? Is he someone like that? There was drama around where he was going to end up. And so it's just like, I didn't love the deal for either side. And I felt like if Jimmy Butler had landed somewhere else, if he had landed in Dallas with Kyrie and AD, if he had landed in Phoenix in some sort of Bradley Beal deal, those teams suddenly become really fucking dangerous. We'll see. Did you see the celebration and the dancing of Curry, Draymond, and Jimmy Butler? Have you seen those three guys dancing together?
No. What's this now?
So in that clip, Drewski is obviously Draymond, Kai Cenat is obviously Steph Curry, and Kevin Hart is coming in as the new guy, and he's Jimmy Butler.
I love it. I really love it.
Before we move on, I don't think there's a gambling angle right here. We did look into all of that stuff. We would talk about it if it did. It would be a situation where I would try and short the Warriors in a little bit. It like I said, it hasn't moved the needle that much in their odds, that much in their win total stuff. So I also think you might get angry Jimmy in a sense of wanting to short the Warriors. You're also going to probably get a very motivated and angry version of Jimmy Butler for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So it's almost like, let's see how this starts to unfold. And then let's see if we could find its high point and then hit it with the resistance and say, now is the time to fade them. Let's see if we could time it with their schedule. Let's see if we could time it with certain matchups. Because I think this team is going to take some time to get apt with their chemistry. And it's going to take some time for them to gel together as players. It might take an off season. It just might not work in general, Drew. Like it just might not work. We'll see. Yeah. And then they have to stay healthy. There's so much going on. I'm of the perspective that we should short the Warriors. Jimmy Butler, though, was legendary in Miami. Drew, I want to give you the most important thing that we're going to discuss on this podcast. Why does Heat culture exist?
I've been waiting like all week for this take. You've been teasing me with this one for at least 4 days now.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know why Heat culture exists. I have figured it out. I am like 98% sure I'm absolutely correct. And everyone's going to be like, holy shit, how did we not think of that? So, Drew, we were talking last night, and I was like, ooh, I have to give the Heat culture take and why Heat culture exists and why Jimmy didn't really fit the bill for Heat culture. He was the image of Heat culture when they brought him to the team, but he's not your typical Heat culture player. Heat culture is when they draft Haywood Highsmith and he ends up developing. We're like, who is this guy? When they get Jaime Jaquez in the 18th pick or whatever, and it's suddenly like, is this guy the rookie of the year? When they draft Kyle Ware, and if you look at rookie of the year odds right now, he's number one shortest odds on the list. It's when you get Duncan Robinson. And what did Duncan Robinson do in Miami? Signed the biggest contract of any player to ever be an undrafted free agent. Do the same thing with who's that big guy that I'm forgetting that they had? Oh my God, Ian for sure knows who I'm talking about. Who
is it? The guy? Oh, why can't I think of Whitehead? Right, Whitehead.
Yes. Okay, so Miami Heat culture exists, and it is a way to develop players who really are unsure if they're gonna work out or not in the league, and they seem to hit at the highest rate. Every single one of them, those guys seems to pop. How does Miami do it? How do they know how to scout these guys? How do they know how to culture these guys up? And Drew, it's so obvious. You said it to me last night. You go, is it because they want to look good at the beach? And I'm like, nah, dude, these players are NBA players. They already look fucking good at the beach. They already 6'8", fucking tattoo sleeves, ripped body for the most part. Like, they're already cooking and good looking. Drew, where does the Miami Heat G League roster play? Where do the Miami Heat G League team play?
I honestly don't know.
Take a guess. Do you think it's somewhere close to the team?
Yeah, I would assume so.
Hassan Whiteside was the person that I couldn't think of. I'm sure there's 1,700 people in the live stream right now. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I hope you're enjoying the show. Please hit the YouTube with a like, or like the tweet, or wherever you're watching, comment in. Hassan Whiteside is the guy who got fucking $100 million bag and then ended up out of the league in a few years once he left Heat culture. Drew, get ready for this. The Warriors G League team is the Santa Cruz Warriors. It is about 30 minutes from the Golden State area. The Brooklyn Nets have the Long Island Nets, where they have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful facility where they share some practice stuff in Coney Island and an amazing stuff. The New York Knicks have the Westchester Knicks, where they play in a really cool little family arena in what's it called? Where the mall is. The Westchester Mall. It's White Plains is where the Westchester Knicks play. There are all of these teams that are relatively close to their current roster. The Miami Heat G League team. You ready for this, Drew?
Yeah.
They play in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So your option when you're an NBA fan and you show up to the Miami Heat is you can work your fucking ass off. You could avoid trouble. You could not show up to the clubs, and you could live in South Beach taking private planes with private chefs with no state income tax with an NBA contract. Or you could fuck around and find out, and you'll be playing
what life's like in South
Dakota, Miami Heat G League team, taking coach buses around, eating fucking Lunchables and whatever the works is. You think that when you don't go to the G League team, when you're Haywood Highsmith, you're like, fuck this noise, I want to be in Miami?
Yeah. This is probably the best take you've ever had.
I know. It's Heat culture so obvious. It's because if you don't develop, you get your ass shipped to South Dakota from Miami.
Pat Riley's a genius.
Genius. If I start taking over a team, if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, you are not playing in a beautiful fucking facility in Long Island where they just redeveloped the old Nassau Coliseum for a Long Island Nets arena. If I'm the Westchester Knicks, you're not playing in White Plains. You're playing in Portland, Maine, where Cooper Flagg is from, where they had to develop a team and pick a team out of nowhere, and his mom was the coach because there's no basketball players. Come back when you're better, because when you come back, you ain't never going to want to fucking leave.
No.
You're going to work your ass off. The clubs will be waiting for you in the summer. The women will be waiting for you in the summer. The baddies will be lined up courtside of the Miami Heat game. They'll get there in the second quarter.
Yeah, it's true.
They'll leave.
Sometimes
for 5
halftime.
minutes in the fourth.
Yeah.
But stone cold fact: Heat culture exists because the Miami Heat G League team is in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
I think you're onto something here.
I know I'm onto something. I legitimately think I'm 100% right. Before we move on, we do need to reminisce quickly about Jimmy Butler's time in Miami because he was fucking amazing. He team on his back, some absolutely incredible moments. Playoff Jimmy was born. Michael Jordan's son was born before that became Anthony Edwards last year. So shout out Jimmy. Let's run some quick highlights of Jimmy Butler in a Miami uniform as he now transitions to the Golden State Warriors.
I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball.
I'll leave your bag under the stairs. Don't go back to our old place. It's probably locked up anyway. I bet it still looks the same as when I ran away that day. Doesn't matter anyway. 'Cause I'm happy. I'm
Great times with Jimmy in Miami. Here is the projected starting lineup for the Warriors moving forward. Curry, Podziemski, Kuminga, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. Don't be surprised if Kuminga ends up coming off the bench and they end up starting a traditional center, having moments of Trace Jackson Davis or Kevin Looney or any of those guys. Drew, we are going to move on to a batch of smaller trades that have happened around the league. Obviously, we still have Luka to the Lakers and Mark Williams to the Lakers to talk about, which has some very, very actionable betting stuff. Obviously, we have De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs. We need to create nicknames for them. We need to check out the highlight package. We need to talk about ways that we target their futures, win totals, prop market for specific things that we were seeing early in night one of those, that combination. So before we get to that, because we are reviewing every single trade that has happened throughout the NBA in the trade deadline week, there was a series of small moves that I labeled, came up with a great sexy terminology to describe this. Small trades for serviceable big men. I mean, if that doesn't wet your beak.
Only the true NBA
If that doesn't get your Grady Dick tingling, I don't know what does. Some small trades for serviceable big men. We have seen Daniel Tice get traded from the New Orleans Pelicans to the Thunder and a 2031 second-round pick. Drew, while we've been live, we have seen Daniel Tice get waived by the Thunder, so he will not be there, but we will talk about that small transaction as well. The Clippers bring in Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills, and they send out PJ Tucker, who has been rerouted to the Miami Heat. Mo Bamba, a second-round pick, and some cash considerations. Caleb Martin goes from the Sixers to the Mavericks. In return, Quentin Grimes and a 2025 second-round pick comes back to the Philadelphia 76ers. And just fitting in here, we saw the news of Lonzo Ball re-signing his 2-year, $20 million extension with the Chicago Bulls. So when I'm looking at this list, I really think there's two trades that absolutely need to be discussed in some detail. And that is, for me, it's the Clippers and it's the Mavericks one. So let me talk about those two. And I know you want to hit on some of the Thunder stuff. So let's talk Clippers first. What the Clippers did was very, 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 very important. It's not the acquisition of Patty Mills and Drew Eubanks. It is how they just navigated through the new CBA and are avoiding the second apron. And when we get to this time in the year, and this is the first time that we've seen the trade deadline with the newest version of the CBA being implemented and different years that it's been implemented, certain thresholds come. So although it's been signed in the past, it's actually active now. And one of those rules are these tax aprons, first apron, second apron. And when you look at the second apron, you hit the second apron with your payroll, you start having less flexibility in the way that you can maneuver. And the Clippers were a second apron team that by getting Drew Eubanks, who I think is a small trade for a serviceable backup big, like I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being something that helps them a little bit. He plays, a decent 16 minutes or so here or there. You get Patty Mills, which I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a 12, 16-minute role and is a little bit of another shooter and scoring punch for them. What the most important part of that trade was for the Clippers was they got under the second apron. They get rid of PJ Tucker. They get rid of Mo Bamba. They send out cash so that it's part of the deal. Just take this. We're literally giving you money so that you can absorb the money, so you could pay for it, but it just avoids the NBA salary cap implications. We'll still pay for it, but we want to get it off our books, per se, in terms of record keeping for the league. So now the Clippers go below the second apron, and now they qualify as a team to sign players in the buyout market. They can make one more piece and one more acquisition, and you really have to wonder, is that Chris Middleton? Does Chris Middleton get waived by the Wizards, get bought out by the Wizards, and agree to join the Los Angeles Clippers for a little bit of a playoff and title run? Is he a bench creator, another secondary playmaker and shooter, another versatile wing that comes in this depth of rotation between Harden, Kawhi, Norm Powell, Derek Jones Jr., Nicholas Batum, Chris Middleton? Now they've even gotten Bojan Bogdanovic from the Hawks, so maybe that takes them out of the Chris Middleton sweepstakes. But don't be surprised if Middleton ends up somewhere where he's definitely in the playoffs this year. Does Miami?
Oh yeah,
Middleton, right? These are some teams where I think Chris Middleton could end up being a big winner by going to another situation where it's actually really strong for him, and he's definitely going to be playing competitive basketball. So when I look at those small trades for serviceable big men, the number one thing that stuck out to me is that the Clippers could be active in the buyout market. We'll have to see how the Bogdanovic deal changes things. Yeah. They might have just absorbed salary to fill that because that happened 20 minutes before we were live. But big picture, the Clippers were ready to make one more move.
Yeah, and they might have already made it. I think the Bogdanovic trade actually moves the needle a bit for them, right? I like having another. Yeah, so do I. And I think having that great outside shooting with the creators that they have in Kawhi. Kawhi hasn't looked quite up to the standards that we were used to. He couple of games when he first came back, he looked phenomenal. And since then, it's been serviceable, but just not the Kawhi that you would expect, right?
He's been himself a little bit offensively. He's just not the same defensive player at all anymore.
No, you can still see that he's got the cerebral element, the defensive IQ, right? But it's just he's half a step behind, or maybe not even half a step. It's probably a quarter of a step, but it's just enough to take him from one of the best defenders in the league, certainly a top quarter of the defenders in the league for sure, down into average, I would say. Yep. So they've got some nice pieces. They've had some issues the last couple of weeks. That loss to the Lakers, when the Lakers were like, no, this is our city, and you're not taking this from us yet. We just got Luka, by the way. That one was a bit tough to swallow, I would say, and the loss to the Raptors is a bit tough to swallow as well. It wouldn't have been so bad if the Raptors didn't actually just manhandle them in that game, right?
Agreed. You just look at this trade deadline: Clippers, Lakers, Warriors, Kings. All of the California teams just made huge moves.
Yeah,
Kings get rid of Fox and bring in Levine. Clippers bring in Bogdanovic and making one more splash. The Lakers obviously have a huge deadline. The Warriors bring in Jimmy Butler. Yeah, there's a little territorial war going on over there.
Yeah, for sure.
Lakers are still everyone's team out there.
Can we call the Sacramento Kings all team no defense?
Yes, we will get to that one in a second, because does Jonas Valanciunas, we haven't mentioned him, but does that fit the description of small trades for serviceable big men? Drew, the other one that I wanted to discuss from this one is the Mavs and the Sixers, the Caleb Martin, Quentin Grimes swap right there. What was important was the way that this signaled for what these teams are expecting for the rest of the year and how they want to position in future. The Mavs have made it abundantly clear that they think that they got to the NBA Finals last year somehow without a guy named Luka Doncic. That there wasn't a guy motherfucking the crowd saying he can't fucking guard me, and then going in the interview after and saying, so you said he couldn't fucking guard me? And Luka goes, I didn't say that. I was speaking Slovenian, right? And you see his words on thing, right? So they are acting like, oh, we need to get ready for another finals run. Caleb Martin, whether he's been with the Heat or in his brief time with the 76ers, Drew, guy shows up against the Celtics. The guy shows up and plays. He is a Boston Celtics killer. So did the Mavericks just make another win now move and say, we need to get a piece that's going to beat the team that we're going up against in the finals? It's almost like the Mavericks are getting ready for another title run against the Boston Celtics, thinking that they're running it back and simply replacing Luka Doncic with more Kyrie usage, switching to an AD interior, Clay on the outside. Like, it is crazy how much they've shaken the team, and they still think that they're going to get there. On the flip side of that, the Quentin Grimes acquisition, it helps the Philadelphia salary cap situation a little bit, but more importantly, Philadelphia just acquired Quentin Grimes' bird rights, which means that they can go into the offseason, keep him as a free agent, and then do whatever they need to do around the cap, and then go over the cap to re-sign him. So now Philly can say, okay, we know we were waiting. Last year, we said it was this year. But this year, it's really going to be next year. That's what the Philadelphia 76ers just did. They're like, it hasn't worked out this year. We're going to push it back. We're going to delay this 1 year. We're going to give Embiid the time. We're going to give Paul George the time. They clearly both haven't been right. Hopefully, they're completely healthy next season. LOL. But really, you're getting Daryl Morey, who is Mr. Cap Gymnastics, to be able to weave whatever deals that he wants to do over the summer, do whatever stuff he wants, and then re-sign Quentin Grimes over the bird rights, over the cap, and then go into next season with pretty much a set roster. So interesting moves. Clippers doing something where they were allowed to make one more deal, and they seemingly go get Bojan Bogdanovic. The Sixers making a deal that's for next year. The Mavericks making a win now deal and a see in the finals Celtics deal in getting Caleb Martin. Drew, you had some thoughts on the Thunder's acquisition of a second-round pick, Daniel Tice, who I would qualify as a serviceable backup big man, even though he was waived because we found out that Chet Holmgren
20 minutes a game for the Pelicans. Like this was not a guy who was not getting rotation. I know the Pelicans have been injured all season, right? And they've had to use their depth, and he's probably more like a 12th man. And obviously, he was not even the 12th man on the Thunder, as he's already been waived, right? But that's a guy who's in the league and should be in the league picking up minutes. He's 5-5 in 20 minutes a game with 2 assists on the Pelicans all season. That's not bad, right? That's a guy you can throw in a pinch and not lose a ton of value, maybe a little more on the defensive end, just because he's a bit small for the position, right? But to me, I couldn't believe it when the Pelicans were literally just giving away a second-round pick and a guy that could potentially even be flipped for another second-round pick, like a really bad second-round pick. Obviously, the Thunder didn't find anything to do that. But like Presti at this point is literally the guy in the league that every GM is so scared of, and they wouldn't pick up the phone unless, but they kind of have to, because at any given time he could just offer 10 second round picks for some guy, just some guy on your roster, like your third best player or something like that. At which point you'd be like at some point he's going to be like, no, I'm trading picks and we're winning the next 4 championships in a row, right? Like that's kind of where he's.
I wanted them to go get Kevin Durant.
They could have. That would have been phenomenal on the content story front, right?
Yeah, welcome home, KD. All this talk about KD to the Warriors. I'm like, no, KD back to OKC, please. Send J-Dub and send a pick, or call it up and be like, Chet Holmgren's going to be back in a few weeks. You want Chet for KD straight up? Like, imagine that the Thunder could make a big move at any deal, and yet, Drew, through all of this, they acquired the second round pick.
Yeah.
They acquired.
What are we talking about?
So what really happened was that Sam Presti just sees where teams are completely desperate and need to make a move. So the Pelicans have been really.
Hey, I'm right here. You can give me that second round pick, and I'll give you some cash. It'll be just fine.
So the Pelicans, I don't think have ever paid the luxury tax. I don't think they've ever gone over the cap in the history of their franchise. And I think they had no intentions to doing it this year, where their DeJounte Murray has been ruled out for the season with an Achilles injury. With Zion is not playing enough games, where the team has less than 10 wins and more than 30 losses, seemingly. Like, this is not the Pelican season. This is, hey, we don't want to pay the tax. We don't want to commit to this team. Because also, if you pay the tax in this year, it starts to accumulate and you get repeater tax if you stay over the tax. So it's important for them to get under the tax so that they have more flexibility in future years. So what Presti just did was, you need to get under the tax. You need to offload a player. We're good. We're not in tax implications and problems. So we'll take Tice and we'll be the one that cuts him and we'll save you money, but give us a second round pick to do that.
Yeah. And
he's absorbing yet another pick to make a transaction for a team that needed to get it done. It is crazy how well he is executing these things and seemingly holding some other GMs around the league hostage. Like, we remember that Elfrid Payton came back and played for the Pelicans this year. Remember that guy with the crazy long hair back in the day? The point guard who would
yeah, I know Elfrid Payton.
Throw that came down in front of his eyes.
How could you not know Elfrid Payton?
Of course. So he ended up playing for the Pelicans a few games this year. I think it was like literally signed off his couch, would come in, would drop 20 assists in a single game. He had a 20 assist game in his first week with the Pelicans. And yet the team still had to cut him because if they kept him for more than his 2 10-day contracts, they were going to be over the cap.
Yeah.
So that they're literally, they're a fucking hair away from being in cap problems. So Presti just called up and was just like, I could solve your cap problems for you.
Yeah.
And they did. They get another second round pick from it.
Yeah. I just thought of him as like, he's a gangster and he's literally just pointing. And then I was like, do you know what the perfect clip for this would be? Pulp Fiction in the diner. It would be like if Sam Presti was Sam Jackson, Travolta's the Pelicans fans, David Griffin is Pumpkin, and Gail Benson is Honey Bunny. And now, where's the video going? There it is.
Yolanda, it's cool, baby. It's cool. We still just talking. Come on, point the gun at me. Point the gun at me. There you go. Now, Vincent, you just hang back and don't do a goddamn thing. Tell her we still cool.
Still cool, honey bunny.
How we doing, baby?
I gotta go pee. I'm gonna go home.
Just hang in there, baby. You're doing great. I'm proud of you. And Ringo's proud of you. It's almost over. Tell her you're proud of her.
Proud of you, honey bunny.
I love you.
I love you too, honey bunny.
Now, I want you to go in that bag and find my wallet.
Which one is it?
It's the one that says bad motherfucker. That's it. That bad motherfucker. Open it up. Take out the money. Count it. How much is there?
$1,500.
Okay, put it in your pocket. It's yours. Now, with the rest of those wallets in the register, that makes this a pretty successful little score, huh?
Jules, you give that fucking Nimrod $1,500 and I'll shoot him on general principle.
No, Yolanda, he ain't gonna do a goddamn motherfucking thing. Vince, shut the fuck up!
That is absolutely excellent, Drew. Hold on, let me remove.
I loved it. When I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is so perfect. This is the greatest thing," and it's exactly how it played out.
Drew, we didn't talk about the Jonas Valanciunas to the Sacramento Kings. He got traded for 2 second round picks and City Sissoko. City Sissoko was someone who came from the Spurs in the Wembanyama deal. So in Fox deal, sorry. So Sissoko goes from Spurs to Kings, does not play or suit up for the Kings, gets rerouted to the Wizards to be traded for Valanciunas. I think we knew for the last year and a half that Valanciunas would eventually be traded for 2 second-round picks. That was what was being said forever. I actually think it's a good return for the Wizards. I don't really know much about Sissoko, but I know that Ian in the back, who's incredible with props, who's dives deep into fantasy basketball stuff, who knows a lot of these young players, these foreign players, these end of the bench rotations. He was like, I like Sissoko. He's like, I actually think he's a good young player who's got some talent and potential and upside. So good on the Wizards for if they're getting a guy that Ian says has potential and 2 second-round picks in exchange for Jonas Valanciunas, then like good on them. We see in the win totals market, the preseason line was 47.5, to which I played a nice big under. It's now at 44.5, Drew, and heavy juice towards the under. They're making all of these trades. They're getting rid of De'Aaron Fox in a lot of this news. That's why you see such heavy VIG change. You see it's still 44.5. But now it's minus 310 towards the under, 225 to the over, with Zach LaVine coming in, Jonas Valanciunas coming in. We look at the potential Kings starting lineup moving forward, and they're going to probably have Malik Monk at the point guard, LaVine and DeRozan on the wings, Keegan Murray and Domas Sabonis, with Valanciunas likely being someone that play off the bench and try and generate some offense with the second unit, with Keon Ellis, with Trey Lyles shooting from the corner, with that young guy, Devin Carter, who was the 10th overall pick. So Kings, how do we feel about Kings prospects moving forward? Win total at 44.5. How much worse do you think the Fox deal made them? And would you, the real crux of this that I wanted to get to, Drew, if you're holding it under 47.5 and you played it significantly at minus 120, and now you're looking at it and there's the over 44.5 at plus 225. So you have a middle you have a middle plus an outright ARB. Yeah. You have a middle on 45, 46, 47 wins. You have 3 wins and an outright ARB in the position. Yet, despite it being incredibly attractive from a gambling net position to have, is it actually worth it? Because still holding a 47.5 minus 120 to the under, when the under 44.5 is minus 310 right now, is such a dominant position to have. So do you want to forego value? Do you want to open up the middle? A lot of these middle situations and stuff that we talk about when we do the daily live streams, 10 a.m., Monday through Friday, breaking down every single game and gambling angles. This is a gambling show. That is the crux of what we do. Obviously, a little bit of switch up to the schedule and the protocols, given that we had the craziest NBA trade deadline in history and we see all these deals happening. But we have to wonder, like, are you foregoing value? And think about it as like a proportional scale, Drew, where your chances of hitting the middle are obviously strong. Like not strong. Well, I guess it's a great middle to have 3 wins in a win total market. Like, it's absolutely fucking dominant. And to have the outright, like, the net position of that is outrightly absurdly dominant. But your proportional gain on acquiring a possible ceiling improving middle also comes with a proportional risk of foregoing some of the value, because maybe they don't get to 45 wins and they're a 44 win or less team, and you're actually just placing a losing bet and you don't want to work off your under 47.5 at all. So I thought this one was the best like gambling position and situation that we were going to find ourselves in relative to where things currently stand. I'm going to look up quickly the remaining strength of schedule for the Sacramento
I was just
Kings.
looking at that already, actually.
It's 14th in the league, exactly a 500 record left.
Yeah. Now, that said, I'm looking through it specifically. Golden State's probably a little better now, right?
Yep.
San Antonio definitely better than they were. Let's look down through here.
They have 2 Portland Trailblazers games that are listed in the easy column, and I wouldn't call that the easiest column.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them easy anymore either. Yeah. So that's 4 games I'm seeing that move the needle a bit upwards. And LA Clippers are even better, even though they were already above 500. I would, from a gambling perspective, I would seriously consider playing this at the really high plus odds right now, because they might be able. Their next 4 of their next 5 are against 3 of their next 5 are against the Pelicans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we know that the Pelicans just threw everybody to the wind as far as they can go, basically, other than Zion. And Murray's out. McCollum's still there, obviously, but they don't have a really good, serviceable roster going forward. And they probably weren't bad, or were already bad for most of the season anyways, right?
Yep.
So if the Kings can get like 2 or 3 wins out of those guys, and, maybe when they face Dallas, they get I can see them winning 3 of their next 5, basically. So, but after that is when I'd start to want to fade them again, right? So I guess the playback time is actually now.
Play it back now. Let's see if it gains another win or 2. Then you could almost potentially create your own middle right now if they win 4 of the next 5 and play the over now and then play the under in a week.
Yeah, and have another ARB spot.
It's very interesting, Drew. Yeah. And it's notable that you say Pelicans versus Kings. Drew, they played each other 5 times last year because they played in the play-in too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Kings 5-0.
Yeah, that I do remember.
Kings
that
they were one of the matchup situations that I've pegged as like come back to this next season because the Kings own this matchup.
Kings are a bit different now, though. Right?
They're a bit different, but so are the Pelicans, and I don't think different enough. Like I think the Zach LaVine for De'Aaron Fox swap is not that much of a drop off in my opinion.
I think you're right.
Like Zach LaVine's playing fucking fantastic, and Malik Monk is going to step up. And yes, they have a different coach, but they're still led by the same guys on both sides. And the Pelicans just got so much worse.
Who do you think is better on defense? Is it Fox or is it LaVine? I would say it's Fox, right?
Neither.
All right. That's a fair point.
All right. Let's see what the Kings can do. I think I'm going to play a small over on the 44.5, considering their
just because schedule. Of the juice, though, right? And because you have the other ticket
and the existing ticket that I already have. I wouldn't do it just off of nothing, but considering the position, the things that we talked about over the summer before the season, where those things set, I highly recommend people check in with their futures tickets right now. Go see if there's middles you have to make. Go see if there's opportunities. Go see if there's anything you want to double down on a good number or something like that. So definitely check in with your existing tickets and just the rest of the market in general. But Drew, let's transition over to De'Aaron Fox being acquired by the San Antonio Spurs and pairing Fox and Victor Wembanyama. I came up with a few nicknames for them. Can I run them by you?
Yeah, let's hear them.
What if we just go the French and the Fox?
I don't know. It's too simple.
What if we go stretch and swiper? Because we always call De'Aaron Fox Swiper the Fox. What if we go stretch and swiper?
I don't like that one either.
All right. I have wee and wee. I have the French guy and the fast guy. Wee and wee.
Yeah, that's.
You have to explain it.
I don't mind that one. Yeah. You can't have something that you have to explain it.
You also literally need to explain it with the wrist motion.
Yeah.
If you don't wee, does it even exist?
No.
What about how Victor Wembanyama is a defensive alien?
Yes.
What about De'Aaron and D-Alien?
That one's not bad. That one I like. That one I think I like the most so far. You got any more?
No, I don't. But I do have a video that has emerged of Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox from years ago. Have you seen them at a press conference a long time ago? Yeah, look at your confusion. No. Check out this awesome video of De'Aaron Fox and Chris Paul.
It's just the second half it got away from us.
Daddy. Chris, sorry, over here. Carl and Jared just told us that they feel.
But I think what we can do is continue to look and see what we did and just come out with that same defensive intensity that.
Bro, I'm in stitches. That was hilarious. I did not expect that at all.
There have been some few things that I
great.
planned in the show that I did not tell Drew what was coming.
Oh, that was good. Thank you for that.
I mean,
Appreciate
little
that.
Chris and De'Aaron can't be that far in age. They're probably similar in age difference as Chris and De'Aaron.
Is it weird that like De'Aaron Fox could have looked like Chris Paul's son at that age? Like I feel like the head and face shape is kind of similar there. I can see it. Like if you were casting a baby version of De'Aaron Fox, you could cast Chris Paul's son at
little
age
Chris.
2, right?
Yeah,
Little
why
Chris.
not? And it's just Chris has been in the league so long. You see that really old video of him, and it's just like he's actually a young version of himself. It's just like De'Aaron Fox might have been 9 years old at the time that was filmed, right? Like he's very young too. So, do we think that Fox is going to work on the Spurs? I think a resounding yes, right?
Yes.
Both of us are resoundingly. This is going to be very, very positive. That Fox didn't have a defensive anchor behind him. He was always playing with Domas Sabonis. So
now he has the defensive anchor.
Now he has
him.
What do you think Wembanyama's odds are right now to win Defensive Player of the Year? Don't look.
Minus 850.
Minus 1350.
Wow. I thought I was being like, wow. But yes. The answer to that question, ladies and gentlemen, is yes. He is the best defensive player in the league. And I don't even think it's close anymore.
He's the best defensive player I think I've seen in my lifetime. Just in impact, like yes, there's different kinds of defenders. Remember, Jaylen Brown made that claim that like we should have 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, a perimeter and an interior. I think it makes some sense. You see people in the NFL being like, you have an offensive player of the year, defensive, like we need a offensive lineman of the year, defensive like lineman of the year, because you isolate certain position groups and that really impacts all of the other stats around it. So Wembanyama right now has an implied probability of 93% chance to win Defensive Player of the Year this year. It's the best defender I've seen in my lifetime. It's apparently what people used to say about Bill Russell or Kareem or some of those guys that I never really got a chance to watch, who they say would just dominate the league. And when I look forward to Wembanyama and when I project forward and like all of the highlights and the clips that emerge, I'm convinced that there's this one fact. There will not be a player who has more end-to-end highlights than Victor Wembanyama. There are literally going to be blocks that literally become swatted so far to the half court line that Speed Demon Fox gets it in transition and goes. It's literally going to be, wait, was that a block or was that an assist? Was that both?
Yeah.
Right? We're going to have to create, we have screen assists as an emerging advanced analytics category. We have block rates that actually change possessions because when they've studied blocks over advanced stats over time, they're like, oh, blocking shots is actually not that helpful because often these shots get blocked out of bounds. So it's actually way more valuable to make sure that when you block a shot, you keep it inbounds. And it's really about contesting shots as opposed to blocking shots is more important. That's why you see Jaren Jackson Jr. being like, I don't care about blocking shots. I used to want to be a block leader. It would get me in foul trouble, and it wasn't that important. What was important was just deterring shots around the rim. We're going to need a new block advanced statistic that's called block assists. I'm going to swat this so far that Stephon Castle is lightning fast, and he's picking that up, and he's gone, right? So I really think that Wemby Fox is going to work. I think it's going to cure Fox's woes defensively. I think Chris Paul is so fucking smart out there. I don't think I've ever seen Chris Paul in a bad net rating lineup. Like, what's this group's 5, or when he's paired with certain players, like he has a positive plus minus with seemingly everyone in every situation. It's almost it's like
which
Jokic
is weird.
It's because he's so smart. It's because he's so good. He knows how to game. He knows how to get other players into their roles. Like Fox is right now starting alongside Paul. I expect that to pretty much continue. I expect Castle. And last night against the Hawks, it was Paul, Fox, Vassell, Wembanyama, and who was the 5th starter? Oh, I wrote it down. Oh, Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes. Castle and Sohan come off the bench. And I think that'll pretty much stay for the rest of this year. And then we'll see what happens with Chris Paul next year and Stephon Castle jumps into the starting lineup. So I'd be very hesitant to pick up any Stephon Castle Rookie of the Year stuff. Like a lot of people think he's going to take off. His usage is just not going to be high enough with the rest of this team. And with moving to the bench, he's going to get plenty of minutes. But you look at the Bulls with Matas. You look at the Heat with Ware. You look at Buzelis, but that's what I said with the Bulls. You look at even Dalton Connect going to the Hornets. Like, these guys are going to get monster usage for the next 35, 40 games and be like, do all you can do out there. You'd have to, I just don't think that's going to be Castle's role right now. So be very wary of those Castle Rookie of the Year tickets. I do think he's probably one of the best rookies this year. Undoubtedly, I think he's got incredibly high potential, but the Spurs are going to win one award, and it's going to be Victor Wembanyama Defensive Player of the Year.
Shoe in.
Did you see the highlights?
Unless something happens, I knock on wood. Please don't have anything happen to Wemby.
We'll review all the betting stuff, but did you see the highlights of Fox going? Were you able to watch much of the Fox against the Hawks game?
I did see probably 2/3 of it. It was a good game all around, and I was actually really impressed with how the Wembanyama specifically and the Spurs in general handled themselves down the stretch, with Atlanta really pushing to come back in that game.
Right. I mean, the fact that the Spurs didn't cover will literally, like, I will remember that one as someone who backed the Spurs in that spot, got a -3, closed at 4.5, loved the spot. They were up 15 in the first quarter, 17.5. And then they end up winning and not covering a 3 after all that. Like, are you fucking kidding me? However, was very impressed. Here's the highlight package of Fox in his debut for the Spurs.
Young with a little sauce and threw it to the wrong guy. Vassell picks it up. Fox in transition, pulls the 3, knocks it down. Folks, take a look at his left.
When you get to shoot that many times, you'll kind of work through it. But here, look, they've got to give him space because of his quickness. You're afraid of the lob. You're afraid of the floater. You're afraid of the dime. He's got all different things in his package.
Fox with the stare down 3. It's Butler. Looks at his wrist and says, I got time today.
And then here, De'Aaron Fox, this is what they're used to seeing in Sacramento, but now he's in San Antonio. And to me, when I look at this talent, they are not far away.
They have a lot of ground to make up, though, in the Western Conference. Fox with a little bit of room service. Lays it home easily. Daniels tried to quick shoot Wembanyama and missed it. Fox on the fly. Steps through, and the lefty lay scores.
And this is the
You could just see he just adds another transition element to this team.
Yeah.
I think he develops as a shooter a little bit more. It's a different size, a different type of pace that they will play with. I just really think he's going to absolutely launch them offensively, create a nice stable floor for them to be able to put up 110 on a given night. Drew, if we're looking towards ways to bet this, ways to play into it, you mentioned to me last night that you were like, Fox's assists, man. Like 13 assists and 1 turnover in game 1. Like, that's not just a fluke because you're going against the Hawks.
No, that's not a fluke.
That wasn't just a matchup Hawks thing. Like, in his first game, a 13 assist, 1 turnover. Like, the ratio is incredibly elite, but the number is so staggeringly different from what he was consistently doing in Sacramento that you think, and I'll let you speak to it more, that there's opportunity to consistently play a Fox over assists until there's a market correction because of where he was in Sacramento and now where he's going to be asked to do in San Antonio?
Yeah, basically, I think there's going to be books out there that are just going to, when it comes to props, some of these books literally just open at average is what I've seen. And then there's the smarter books that realize context plays a part in this league, apparently. Who would have thought? And adjust their lines based on that. I'm king. When do the Spurs play next? Let's look at the so the Spurs Kings game is up, right? Is there any player specials? No, there's no player props out for it yet. I'd be really interested to see what his line was, because I know I was betting on his assists unders when they were like 8.5 and whatnot out in Sacramento, when he was getting 6, 7 a night, not having quite the same usage in the half court, especially after Christie showed up. I think with this specific roster and the speed that he brings them, and the fact that all the wings can run with him, and Wembanyama can run with him, and Wembanyama can catch any ball anywhere within 18 feet of the basket and dunk it, essentially, right? Like if he's standing 10 feet from the basket, you can throw him the ball on one side, which would be 17 feet from the basket, and he can dunk it on the other side by leaning. Like Fox, I'm pretty sure there's every point guard in the league would be like, can I just have Wemby? I will get so many assists. I'm just gonna throw the ball like in the general vicinity of the rim, and he's just finishing every time. And he's actually a good finisher too already, right? We've seen some of these finishes in traffic where he just dunks it. He doesn't care, right? You would think that with his slender size that he wouldn't have the power, but he kind of does already. It's nuts. There's two things as a fan of any other team in the NBA right now. There are two things that scare the absolute shit out of me. One of them is when I see Luka and LeBron sitting on the Lakers bench together in warmups talking about basketball and realizing that Luka now has the smartest basketball player basically ever beside him to teach him how to absolutely run this league for the next 5 years. I'm terrified of that. And the other thing I'm terrified of is the 7'6" alien who plays like Kevin Durant and Giannis Antetokounmpo mixed together.
Yeah, really. Because the proper way to say that is Kevin Durant and Giannis together, because you're doing the whole assist thing and like there's so many ways to get him the ball around the basket, Drew. He's also a pick and pop guy. Like when they go pick and roll together, and Wemby pops, there's more assist opportunity with him hitting threes or hitting elbow jumpers. Like it's not only the roll to the big man. It's not only the lob finish. It's also the pick and pop. It's like what Tyler Hero and Bam are doing right now. It's like, it's going to be that at the highest fucking level. And like, let's hope Pop comes back. But Mitch Johnson's been fantastic seemingly in his coach. I don't think funny or comical. I don't think those are the right terms to put it, obviously, because Pop's dealing with some health stuff. But I think it's just interesting. I don't know. You guys can fill in the right adjective for me. That we spent years talking about who Popovich's successor is going to be. Is he going to bring back Quinn Snyder, who was birthed in the San Antonio coaching scheme, who's now coaching the Hawks and took another job? And it was like when he left Utah, they're like, oh my God, Quinn's going to go back to San Antonio as a top paid assistant and then take over the job from Pop. That didn't end up happening. He took the Atlanta job sooner, right? Then it was like, oh, Becky Hammon. She's coaching their summer league team. She won a summer league championship with the Spurs. It's like, oh, she's destined to be the first female head coach in the league. Nope. She signs and goes and now is the Las Vegas Aces coach and won some titles in her early stints there. Right. So Hammond's probably not going anywhere. Quinn's probably not going anywhere. You look at all the rest of the guys who Ime, I don't think Ime is going anywhere. Ime was very much a San Antonio player then hired into their staff. Right. So it's like, who is it? Is it going to be Chris Paul who goes player to staff? Probably next year, I would assume. I would assume that was option of his deal that we would hire you if you want to. Not as head coach, but I think Mitch Johnson is like all of a sudden emerging as like, wait, this guy's the next head coach of the Spurs. Like, this is the guy that's going to be with Victor Wembanyama for the next 10 years. This is the guy that's going to be leading the Fox and Wembanyama charge. And I've been very impressed with Mitch Johnson. Like the style they play, his coaching acumen, his media stuff. Like, shout out Mitch Johnson. Like, I think that's very bright future for the Spurs right now.
I think you're right. And the microcosm of that was literally the ending of last game against Atlanta when Wembanyama's at the free throw line and makes the first one to take it to
I wish we had
26-25.
It was more than just that too, because the play to get Wemby the out of bounds pass and to get him cutting to the rim and catching it was so beautifully drawn up. It was a beautiful, beautiful after timeout play, and then an even better execution at the free throw line. Hey, if you make one, what Drew's saying is yesterday the Spurs and the Hawks played, as we just showed some of the clips. We go through the game, it's tied 125, and then the Spurs have the ball with a few seconds left, 10 seconds, whatever, and they draw up a beautiful, beautiful out of bounds play. Wemby catches the ball, gets fouled with, I think, 2 seconds, 2.8 left on the clock. They call timeout.
It was more than that. It was 4.5 seconds for sure.
Okay. So he gets fouled, and what they say is that the Hawks have no timeouts, right? So Drew, the Hawks are going to have to inbound the ball from the baseline. They're going to have to go full court to get a quick shot up. They have no timeouts. It's at maximum a 2-point game, so you can't foul them. You can't do the up 3, and when you have to inbound from your own side of the court, we can foul you before you get to half court and kill 2 seconds and let you just play the free throw game where you can't catch us and just try and burn out the clock in the last 4 or 5 seconds and win that way. So what Victor Wembanyama does is he realizes no matter what, even if he makes the second free throw, Hawks can set up out of bounds and set up one of those plays to throw a pass, get someone to catch it in stride, get off a shot. You can't foul them. It's going to be a 3-pointer regardless. So being up 1 versus 2 didn't matter unless you were on a spread.
Yeah, it mattered to me.
So he misses the second one. A nice old Mike Fiddle brick on the mini hoop is Victor Wembanyama on the second free throw. And that causes a little tussle for the rebound, and it kills 2 seconds, so they can't get off a good look, and the clock would expire.
Also,
Spurs win by 1. Genius coaching.
For the record, Wembanyama made that bounce free throw perfectly. Like, it went 8 feet into the air above the rim.
Yeah.
It was actually, like, weirdly clutch in a way.
Hitting the first one was clutch.
Well, yes, first of all, yes, absolutely. So but we're starting to see like every single thing with this guy points to absolute superstardom. Is there anything you can say about him at this point? Like what's his ceiling? His ceiling is the greatest player ever, right? Like easily.
If he stays healthy, if he stays durable, I think a lot of Victor Wembanyama's legacy is going to be completely changing the game for the incoming young big men. You see those weird toe exercises that he does. You see how flexible he is. You see you can do a split. And apparently they knew he was going to be this way. And they started doing a training regimen when he was young so that his muscles would develop for this. They studied where typical big men get hurt. And they started training his body and small muscles and flexibility and all this stuff to deal. Yeah, he's been trained in physiotherapy since he was 12 years old to be a durable NBA player. So that when we get these guys, like when you ask Bam, when did you first dunk? Bam says 11 years old.
That's insane.
Right? And then it's like, and then he talks about, he goes, yeah, I was about 6'6" when I was 11. And then I grew another few inches from between then and 14. Like Bam Adebayo knew he was going to the league early.
Yeah.
So like, should he have been training his feet muscles, his toes? If Victor Wembanyama stays healthy, his biggest contribution, the way James Harden has shown the young kids to step back, how Steph Curry has created range, how LeBron has created body conditioning. Like Victor will do training regimens for young guys coming so that hopefully a lot of big men stay a lot healthier throughout the rest of the time. And if that happens along with everything else, Drew, yeah, he has the potential to be best player of generations. Like I don't rank LeBron versus MJ. I don't bother getting into this discussion. I did not watch enough Michael Jordan. I was born in 1992, right? When MJ was doing three-peats, I was less than 10 years old. Right. So I don't know basketball at the highest level then. So it's unfair for me to have watched so much LeBron James to like go back and watch a few highlights or a select few games or a series here or there. Like I did not watch Michael Jordan's career and understand the arc and have time to process it all and get ready between games and all that stuff. So in terms of now and the players I've seen, it's LeBron and then a gap. But like Wemby is probably the first player, I mean, maybe Luka, who we're about to switch to, maybe Jokic, like to actually be able to potentially fill in that gap and be the next greatest by far of their generation.
Do you know, I think I have the perfect analogy for what it was like to watch Michael Jordan in that second three-peat, 96 to 98. Do you know how everybody and their mother is going to watch the Super Bowl this weekend? And everybody kind of is like, I like the Eagles. I think they're the better team in this matchup. Yet Mahomes is still favored and you can't bet against Mahomes. That's literally what Michael Jordan was like. It was like you could not bet against him. Whereas I wouldn't have had, like, I wasn't betting as much back when LeBron was competing in the early or the mid 2010s on those Cleveland teams and the latter half of the Miami years. But I wouldn't have had a problem betting against him in some of those series for sure.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what Mahomes is definitely Jordan Brady-esque.
Yeah, like I want the Eagles this weekend. That's the side I would take. And I am not betting it because I am too scared.
I have a Chiefs plus 650 future, Drew. And I think I'm going to bet Eagles plus 1.5 as a literally perfectly even hedge. Because I think Eagles too. I think I'm just going to play the Eagles plus 1.5 and make it perfectly even. But when you ask me what I'm hoping for the Super Bowl, the Chiefs by 1 would make dreams come true.
The Chiefs by 1 would make dreams come
Chiefs by 1,
true.
Dreams come true. All right, let's quickly show the Fox to the Spurs breakdown real quick. He went from minus 190 in defensive player earlier. Over the last few weeks, it has climbed to minus 1350, as we said. Their before and after win totals didn't really change much. And listen, they have a 22-26 record, and they need to win 19 games. So what you're asking them to do to hit their win total right now, it was 35.5 at the beginning of the season. They overperformed a little bit early, so it went up. Then they were going to start to regress, but we projected and we started hearing all the Fox rumors. So the number popped a little bit in anticipation of Fox coming. So the before and after of the Fox news is the same because we were expecting this. We'll see how it takes to integrate them, but it would be 19 wins to go over and hit the number, which means 56% of their games. That's asking a lot. It's asking a lot for this team. So what I would say is it becomes a great spot to play situationally. It becomes game to game. It becomes don't attack it in the futures market. We looked into to make the playoffs odds, to make the play in odds and what those numbers are like and where they are in the standings. It really is not actionable beyond the game to game market. And as Drew said, the assist market for a Fox.
Yeah.
So I think totals, you'd be looking Spurs team total overs. I think if they shore up the defense a little bit, you're going to be looking for reverse team total unders. If you want to get really funky and do like an inversely correlated parlay, where instead of taking a Spurs -4, you take Spurs over their team total, other team under their team total, and inversely correlate them in a parlay. I think you'll start to see that when Spurs are underdogs and you like backing them as an underdog. Spurs like +8 somewhere really good if they're like playing in Denver. And you're like, give me Spurs team total over, Denver team total under, and playing into those angles because the defense might shore up for them. So I think really look game to game market, really look assist market, really look team totals market, and roll over that bankroll, churn that bankroll more so than invest it into any of the futures odds because it's pricey and they're making you pay for it. And yet it's not a team that we want to short.
No, exactly. Game to game is the way to go.
Drew, are you ready to talk about Luka to the Lakers?
I am.
Luka to the Lakers and the Lakers collective moves around that too. The Mark Williams addition and all that comes with it. Let's talk some Luka to the Lakers, but let's start that off with reminiscing with the top 5 funniest moments of Luka in Dallas because again, an epic run for Luka in Dallas. 7 years, two finals appearance, 1 finals appearance, 1 conference finals appearance, some dagger moments, some amazing shit talking, some funny things on and off the court. Here's some Luka Mavericks before we turn the page and start the Luka Lakers era.
I'm fast. Boy, I said before the game, we just can't fuck around and we just, oh shit. Love it.
And our energy was great.
What do you think? Okay. Okay, moving on.
I hope that's not live.
351 games as of tonight.
Silly, come here. Did he dunk? You did.
I love him bringing Steph under the rim just so that Jokic can go dunk on him. The European brothers strike one on the American. All right, Luka goes to the Lakers, Drew.
I don't think it's going to sink in until I see him in a Lakers uniform in a game. I still, it doesn't compute for whatever reason in my brain. I guess it's like, this is what happens when an impossibility becomes possible.
Have you heard what other players have chimed in and said as reaction?
Yeah,
Did you hear
I've
Anthony
been hearing
Edwards'
a bunch
reaction?
of them. Yeah.
Kevin Durant's reaction, Giannis's reaction. Let's go through some of what the star players are saying around the league and hear from them before us, because their opinion matters more than ours. And then we'll show some Luka and LeBron shooting around together and actually being on the court together. And then we will break down what we think it means, what we think about the betting markets, and how we go about that. Oh, the Lakers pull it off. Yet another one is absolutely crazy. Here's Kevin Durant on the Luka Doncic AD trade.
To the trade.
Insane. Well, it's crazy. Crazy. Yeah, I would have never thought Luka Doncic get traded at this age, you know, mid-season. Yes, the NBA is a wild place, man. If he can get traded, then anybody's up, you know, for grabs, you know. So, yeah, this got to be the biggest trade I've seen since I've been in the league or since I've been watching the sport. This is insane. So, yeah, every other team might get confidence and say, fuck it, I'll trade my you know what I'm saying? My top players, a few of my top players, fuck it, this ain't working. You know. But, yeah, I'm still shocked.
How did you find out?
Man, a couple fans was just, when they found during the game in the fourth quarter, and just said, Luka got traded. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Then our security guys showed me his phone. I'm like, oh, I seen Shams. When Shams tweeted, you know it's the show. So like I said, crazy league. Looking forward to the next couple of days.
And the next couple of days were absolute fire.
And even better for the Lakers with what they did secondary. The only gripe that I have with Kevin Durant on that, and I was pissed when I saw this. KD, brother, it's Shams.
Yeah.
Like, Shams is so well known and so important to the NBA space that I actually think it's slightly disrespectful at this point to keep calling him Shams. His name's not Shams. Like, he does so many interviews and he introduces himself. I'm Shams Charania. Like, it's unbelievable. People wouldn't mispronounce Woj. Even people would pull up the Wojnarowskis.
Yeah.
Here's Anthony Edwards on the Luka Doncic trade and creating a monster.
What are your thoughts now that you've sat with it a little bit on the Luka AD trade?
Man, it's crazy. He just took them to the finals. he beat me and took his team to the finals. I just feel so tried that, like, if they say I couldn't do this, I go. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever they saying about me, I'm going to change the whole storyline. The whole campaign is going to be my campaign. He just took y'all to the finals.
So you think they might have created a monster?
Yeah, hell yeah. If the respect that I got for him is where I think it is, yeah, they created a monster. Hell yeah. And I'm excited to play the Lakers now, like, because they created a monster, boy. Man, what? He was getting 35 like it ain't nothing. Now, like, they finna make him drop to 240 and all type of shit. Like, he gonna be in shit, dunking shit. I'm excited to see the first time the Lakers play Dallas in Dallas. I'm super excited to see that. Oh, my God. It's in a few weeks. If we not playing, I'm buying front row tickets to that. Hey,
he's right. Front row tickets for that.
Why didn't the Mavericks call up for Anthony Edwards?
Because they wanted AD. Because AD for Luka is a good swap.
Like, if your concerns were like the weight, the contract, him not signing it, like, Ant's locked into his extension for the next 5 years?
Yeah.
4 years after this? Very interesting. Here was the official deal. Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris go to the Lakers. Anthony Davis, Max Christie, 2029 first-round pick, goes back to the Dallas Mavericks. Danny Ainge and the Utah Jazz would acquire Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 second-round picks. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino would end up being waived, but They just get in the deal for salary cap reasons. The story would come out later that Ainge got in the deal for salary cap reasons and knowing that he was going to just acquire this stuff for doing nothing, but did not know the other details surrounding the trade. So he found out almost the same time as us that it was a Luka and Anthony Davis swap that he was participating in. He did not know that when he agreed to the trade. I wonder if when he got the word, if he was like, holy shit, I would have called Nico Harrison and convinced him otherwise. Or like, holy shit, how did this happen? Or like, this is a Danny Ainge heist executed by Pelinka. Then the Lakers would go out and get Mark Williams from the Hornets in exchange for their rookie Dalton Knecht, Cam Reddish, a first-round pick, and a future pick swap. Drew, Mark Williams is 7'2". He's a perfect fit for Luka Doncic. He's going to assume the Derek Lively role. You ready for this? He's younger than Dalton Knecht, the rookie that they just traded. Because Knecht was like a multi-year college player and whatever, and Williams came out early. Williams, they just got a younger, like, obviously the contract control won't be as the same because you have Dalton under starting his rookie contract this year. But like, you're going to have restricted free agency. You're going to have bird rights. You're going to be able to go over the cap. The piece fits fucking perfectly. You were able to keep Austin Reeves. You were able to keep Rui Hachimura. So like all of the salary fillers that you expected them to the Lakers to move around with, they end up keeping the best of it. They end up trading D'Angelo Russell, their rookie Dalton Knecht, and swapping Max Christie and Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic. All of a sudden, the Lakers create an incredibly formidable roster. Here's their projected starting lineup. Luka
That's actually good.
Yeah, it's incredible. Luka at the 1.
Oh, no.
Austin Reeves at the 2. LeBron James at the 3. Either Dorian Finney-Smith or Rui Hachimura at the 4. I would assume it's Rui Hachimura actually to start because he's been with the team, so I don't think they want to shake up the locker room chemistry, and he's been starting. So I would assume DFS is going to be a more important piece and in more important moments, but I think Rui will officially be the starter, and Mark Williams at the 5. Like, it is amazing. Then you bring in Jackson Hayes off the bench, and you could see Luka already in night 1, like smiling at the Jackson Hayes. You get Gabe Vincent being your backup point guard. You get Vanderbilt and Hachimura or Finney-Smith. I think it'll be Vanderbilt and Finney-Smith coming off the bench as defensive wing stoppers. Like, those guys are going to be essential for depth defensively. Christian Wood, a big man who could occasionally be a floor spacer, and Bronny James. That's it.
Who gets the occasional layup?
Did you see why they really traded Anthony Davis? Did you see what Anthony Davis did to Bronny? That was like, wow, you can't do that to Bronny.
Oh, let's see this. I'm excited.
Get up, Rook. Get out of my fucking seat.
The writing was on the wall right then and there. See you later, AD. We're getting Luka.
Did you see the clip of Nico Harrison emerge as he was agreeing to the Luka Doncic deal? It was a video of Nico Harrison using his brain really wisely. Did you see this? I will show it right now.
Well, you're going to get 3 U's. I like to solve the puzzle. Okay, well, let's hear it.
Treat yourself a round of sausage. No.
I'm sorry, that's not it. Over to Katina.
I like to solve.
Okay.
Give yourself a round of applause.
Yeah, that's it.
So Rob Pelinka will be giving himself a round of applause. Nico Harrison will be treating himself to a round of sausage.
Sausage is good. I like sausage.
Those game show clips when someone says a dumb answer are truly the funniest things in the world.
And the host just has to look at them like smiling the whole time. Just
that's
not the
totally
answer.
correct.
How about we go over here, you fucking wingnut?
All right, Drew. Let's talk quickly about the betting market surrounding the Lakers, because this actually becomes very actionable if we're looking at the trade. Title odds before Luka showed up about a week ago was 40-1. Drew, I have a ticket from this summer. at 40-1 Lakers. Now, I would like
Well
to
done.
note quickly, I would like to just to show this and emphasize this. I've been tying up money in my bankroll since the summer on 40-1. It was also 40-1 7 fucking days ago. So, yes, my bet in theory is good now with the news. However, I didn't need to do that. Like, the reason why we don't like tying up money is because, like, so many of these prices are still available later. Sometimes you get better prices because your future starts going the wrong direction. Sometimes you can do line shop. There was a 50-1 right before the Luka news dropped at an offshore that maybe I could have gotten action down. So, like, for so many reasons, we're not people who play much into the futures market. Win totals we will play because those stay up all year. You can create middles, you can buy out of them, you could double down on them. They're a very low hold market. The NBA title odds are probably a 13 to 15% hold. The win totals markets are less than 5%, 4.76. So if you're looking at it and you're like, oh, I could bet into a 4.76% hold, 3 times less than title odds, and return that money at the start of the playoffs, not a month and a half later at the end of the playoffs, right? Also the time back to get that money back into your account, and having a market that stays up with outs, with hedge options, with middle options the whole year, right? So the win totals market was really the place that we were going to look. However, it was 40-1 before the news. The Luka trade happens and it moves to 20-1. And then the Mark Williams trade happens and the title odds move down to 16-1. Now, let's talk a little bit about how those prices change between Luka and Mark Williams, because I thought when it was priced with 20-1 with Luka, with the team not really being whole and not really being a roster with cohesion and depth, if that makes sense, Drew, like no center.
Yeah.
Like
they were missing pieces still, like very, very big pieces.
Right. So, and the Mark Williams one becomes such a big and important acquisition for them, especially because they were lacking bigs. They wanted a big next to AD. AD said, I want another center. All right, here's Derek Lively and Gafford. See you.
Yeah.
So they lose AD when they were already in need of a big. So the roster was not in a good place when the odds were 20-1. A 20-1 ticket, Drew, as needs to hit 1 out of every 21 times to be profitable.
Yeah.
Because if you hit the 20-1 and then you lose it 20 other times, you're break even. So 1 out of every 21. When you're working with a plus odds ticket, 1 over the plus odds plus 1, right? You're working with a 6-1 ticket, your implied is 1 over 7. You're working with a 20-1 ticket, your implied is 1 over 21. You're working with a 16-1 ticket, your implied is 1 over 17. Easy. It's 1 over X plus 1 times 100% to get to the percentage of your implied probability. If you look at what it was when it was 20-1 and now 16-1, the implied probability, Drew, on the Lakers to win the NBA title moved from 4.8% to 5.8%. A 1% increase in the Lakers title chances when they acquired Mark Williams. Now, I'm just going to outright say it. I think it's definitely higher.
Yeah.
I think Williams' impact is felt a lot more than a 1% chance. I think he's critical to rounding out that roster. So I actually, out of all of these, it seems like probably the most quote unquote public side to take out of all of these trades that have happened, to go to the Lakers futures market and say that actually has the best value. I legitimately think it does. I would look towards like the 8-1 conference odds, because I think it's going to be a little difficult for them to match up with the Celtics if they get to the finals and that's who they're facing. Also, Drew, let's have you respond to the title stuff first, because I have a lot to say about win total also.
Okay. So the title stuff, interestingly, I think the books had priced in, or at least some of them had priced in, the fact that the Lakers were still had maybe one move left. And it seems as of now, obviously we've been live since the deadline, so I haven't really been as privy to all the trades that have happened. Obviously, we're going to do kind of an after action review after this and make sure that we have a handle on every single thing that happened throughout the league I'm pretty sure the Lakers didn't do anything, and I'm pretty sure they were expected to, because the FanDuel odds on this have moved from plus 1,700, which is where I actually bought my ticket last night. I did take a Lakers championship ticket in this spot because I think 17-1, when you have a guy who basically took like a half decent team, but a team with overall less talent than this current Lakers roster now, especially considering the injuries they had throughout the playoffs last year, right? To the finals out of the West. So like now you're asking him to do the same thing, only with a center who's actually better than Derek Lively on paper, and Luka, and LeBron. Like, he just made the finals, and they showed a level of compete with the Celtics that I don't think we necessarily expected, considering most models had the Celtics like minus 300, minus 350 to win that series, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think they opened. Yeah. Well, it was minus 350, and it was way too fucking low.
Yeah, and it was still too. It wasn't. I think it was minus 275 at open for the series price or something.
Yeah, you're right, and it was way.
Yeah, and it ended up at like minus 350 before the tip of the first game. I think is where we got to. So, I also think that like the Lakers are kind of built to beat the Celtics a little bit. They're not going to have the same it's going to be shooting variance. Right? Is how if a series between the Lakers and the Celtics happens in the finals, I think it comes down to shooting variance. And in that case, I want the two maybe clutchest guys in the league on my team, and Luka and LeBron.
Gio says the only thing stopping this Lakers team from a title is their health. And I really think that's true, because you look at the rest of the West landscape right now, and then we'll talk about the Celtics and the final stuff, Drew. Like, I mean, the Mavs are obviously making it to the finals again with AD and Caleb Martin now.
Yeah, of course.
So the Mavericks are like their biggest competition.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Luka would be on such a fucking revenge tour, and LeBron wouldn't let him down in that sense too. LeBron can dominate in matchups. I don't think the Lakers are losing to the Mavericks. The Lakers have historically matched up very well against the Thunder, and Luka is a Thunder fucking killer.
Yep.
He's lightning to their thunder. Look at the Nuggets. The Nuggets have taken a step back. And despite them beating up on the Lakers and winning a lot of the games, they were all so close. And the amount of times the Lakers had 10-point leads at halftime, it was anomalous. It was not normal.
It was a weird sweeper. Was it 5
games?
They had
multiple game winners in the same series.
Yeah.
Like, they went up 2-0 on 2 game winners, like on the last shot.
Yeah, that one game where Murray had like 10 points, but also hit like a fadeaway over top of AD. And
they asked AD
falling into the bet. Yeah.
They ask AD post-game, what did you think? What did you see? Whatever. And AD just goes, a player made a shot. Like, that's all that. It wasn't anything more than that.
Yeah.
It's not
literally
some greater thing of like, we can't beat this team or whatever. It's like, no, the fucking hit just a crazy, ridiculous shot. And so now you look at this
defense
team,
on it. Played great defense on it. He just made it. Like,
are the Clippers going to be the most dangerous? But Clippers are gonna with the same health questions you have for the Lakers, you have to have for the Clippers.
Absolutely. And with the evidence of the last couple of weeks of Kawhi came back strong, and now that he's played, 20 minutes a game for 6 games in a row, he looks kind of sluggish again, right? Is this a conditioning thing?
Are you taking the Rockets with this iteration of the Rockets over a Luka LeBron team with the Rockets without a superstar?
Fuck no.
Right.
Are you no.
Okay, the Grizzlies, maybe Grizzlies, maybe.
If they're perfectly healthy and Morant is fine and Bane is fine and
but also
Jackson's
the Lakers have owned that match. The Lakers have knocked them out of the playoffs and the play-in multiple times already.
Do you know what it is? Luka and LeBron are not scared of anybody in the league. No one. So when it comes like mental advantage in every single series that they go into going forth is with the Lakers.
Yeah, they're going to be fucking good. Okay, then what if they don't play the Celtics?
Yeah.
We just saw the Celtics priced against the Cavaliers in Cleveland. Cleveland's up like 4 games on them in the standings, right? So what if they go up against the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Cavs win that series over the Celtics, and it's not the Celtics in the finals. And suddenly it's a much better matchup for a team like the Lakers or a team without title experience who might tighten up in that spot a little bit. Like, right? Like, what if an injury happens anywhere in the East? What if it's, the Knicks end up going up 3-1 and end up winning and going to the finals, but they lose OG Anunoby in the series, or they lose, like, anything can happen in those spots. So I do think it's worthwhile. And you look at the bench depth with the Lakers wings. If you do go up against Boston and you do have a plethora of wings, you have different guys to throw at Tatum and to throw at Brown. You could throw on Vanderbilt. Go hound Luka, and you have 6 fouls to use, right? You have Finney Smith. You have Rui, who has played good defense in the playoffs. So this Lakers team is fucking legit. I hope out of it so much that what they've really done is extended LeBron's career by another year or two. Like, I hope we get
year or two. I think we can talk about 4.
He could play as long, like pretty much play as long as he wants to, like within reason. Like, the man could average 12, 4, and 4 playing 18 minutes off the bench when he's 48 years old. I'm convinced of it. But yeah, he might be reinvigorated to want to. He might not be taking on a heavy load, throughout the next few years in terms of usage. He's going to be deferred
through the regular season.
We're finally going to have a situation, Drew, where Luka Luka's going to get most of the stats. Luka's stat set's going to look pretty similar. This is going to be the first time that LeBron no longer averages 25, 7, and 7, just always.
Yeah, this is the first real player that he's played with that is better than him right now at his own skill set, right? To some extent.
Yes. The next coming of LeBron has always been Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
And look at these guys taking shots together at Lakers shoot-around. Good luck, everybody.
I'm scared. I'm scared.
That's a preview for a fucking horror movie. That's Saw 7 for the rest of the league. All right. I want to talk quickly about win totals for this team because I think it's egregiously mispriced. And I think it becomes by far my favorite betting option available, or not currently available, because I'm currently searching around and I don't see the option to bet it everywhere. But we have seen on the screens that before the trade, it was like, what, they were like 44.5 or whatever. Preseason was 41, 42 at different books. Before the trade was like 44, 46. It popped to 47.5 after the Luka trade. They're 29-19 right now. They're 8-2 over their last 10. They're winning games at a 60% clip. They need, for the rest of their season, they need to go 19-15 to get to 48 wins. Right? 19-15. They need to go from winning 60% of their games to, we think potentially improving right now and getting motivated and getting angry. And they have to win 55% of their games. The Lakers have to go 19-15. I have an over at 41.5. No middle. Double down. Give me over 47. Let me put the exact money that I'm going to project to net win and literally double it down and just go take that and reinvest it. Because I feel very confident they're getting over 41.5. Right?
Yeah. That makes
so
a lot
let
of
me,
sense.
if it lands at 44, I'll break even. I'll lose the over 47 and win the over 41.5. But for sure, I want to reinvest that money and almost double down into this market, because asking the Lakers to go 19-15 rest of the year is a no-brainer. No-brainer. Gio says, I'm not usually a big futures guy. Us neither. And that's something that we've mentioned a bunch during the show. This is why we're picking off really rare exceptions. We're not going through the awards categories. We're not going, those are the fucking biggest sucker markets in the world. We're not going through a lot of championship odds. We're not paying in to 13 to 15% market holds on these things, tying up our money for months until after the season. But we're post deadline right now. And that would return if we played if you played a win totals market in the future. That would return in about 2 months. So you're not tying up money for that long, Drew. You don't have football going on, so there's less volume. You don't have that much. I don't really bet baseball, so like we don't have You don't have multiple things on the card. You don't have a lot of college football. Like maybe you need it for college basketball. I don't do that much in the college space. I will play someone else's bet if they're send me stuff and I really trust them. Like if you're capping NHL, you went 6-2 in the NHL yesterday, and you told me that, I'm thinking over, fuck, I wish he sent me his bets because I would place those, but I don't need as much liquidity as normal in this next 2 months, so I can play a future. I can, realize my bankroll over the summer when it's the NBA like summer break, and you're attacking on NFL futures in that time, NBA futures in that time, wanting to get bankroll churning for NFL. You get Sundays where you have basketball and football on at the same time. You're attacking. There was an NFL Sunday at 27 bets on the card. There's been times I've had 70 bets on the card. Right? Yep. So we often don't like playing futures. Now is a specific example of when not only line-wise to present some value, but timing-wise to actually work within your betting portfolio. It's not just what line do you like. There's optimal strategies about how to do these things. Do you just play it in a game-to-game market? But like even playing in a game-to-game market, like I think that's going to be well priced. And I think the future in this case is what's mispriced. We talked about the Fox and the Spurs situation. The future was tough to attain. The win total was tough to attain. That was asking a lot. So let me flip that over game to game and play specific spots that I like. Here, it seems to be the 47.5 in the win total that's under expectation. So definitely worth playing. Definitely. If you find the 47.5, I absolutely highly recommend playing that in a win total. Lakers over 47.5. Any thoughts, Drew?
Yeah, I like it too. I just wanted to do the longer shot because I didn't want to tie up as much of my bankroll in futures market. It was easier to just put 2.5. I think I have 2.5 units on Lakers plus 1,700 right now, which I'm a little annoyed by because they didn't make an extra trade, which I really thought they would do just to shore up. Because I don't think they can get into the buyout market, which we talked about earlier. Is that correct?
No, Lakers cannot. So no Middleton coming to town. So like,
no.
It's just
that kind of sucks because he'd be great there. He'd be really great there.
Yep.
Is there anything they can do to get under the cap at this point now? I don't think so, right? Unless they like stretch provision or something of that nature. Or
no, they can't. They're not getting in the buyout market between now and the next few weeks.
Okay.
Interesting. And then maybe they'll have like a mid-level exception or that going into the summer to bring on somebody. But no, they are where they are for this season, unless another deal trickles out in the news over the next few hours. Obviously, the trade deadline is closed now, but we will start to get some news that starts to continue to trickle out because deals will get submitted to the league office at 2:58 and go through the process, and then we'll just start to find out. There were a few other deals quickly that started to come out today. As we had already prepared all of the graphics and everything for the show, so we don't have all of these queued up. But Marcus Smart is leaving Memphis and going to the Wizards. It seems like the Memphis was dumping Marcus Smart in the contract for cap flexibility stuff and sending a pick and Smart out. Grizzlies' acquisition of Smart was obviously a big-time failure in hindsight, where they gave him a deal. They traded multiple first-round picks. They were involved in the Porzingis effort to get to Boston in that trade too. So tough look for Grizzlies in that spot. However, I do believe that Marcus Smart gets rerouted, probably bought out if he agrees to a buyout, because he does have 2 more years on his deal. And
then he's not.
It's one of those descending contracts, though, Drew. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if he did, so that he could sign a new contract next year, which starts where his 4th-year rate was, right? So
yeah, that makes sense.
If he was getting an extra 40
years.
or 100 million, and he was getting 28 in the first year, so he can get 19 in the last year, Marcus Smart can opt out of that deal and then sign a deal now where he's getting 17 in the first year, 18, and go length over.
Do you really want to be paying 30-year-old Marcus Smart after having not played all season and not looked as good last year as well, going forward, $18 to $20 million for 3 or 4 years? I don't.
I think it's fair. I think it's on par with some other like standard role player contracts around the league. We'll see. I don't think it's the worst thing to do. Like it wouldn't be the worst option for your Raptors to do.
No, you have a point there actually, because they could use some depth.
His off-ball defense, his secondary guard. It's like
that's a great fit.
Houston. Yeah, look what Dylan Brooks did to Houston.
Yeah. I super agree with you there, actually, now that I think about it. That's the one thing we don't have is a really good on-ball guard.
And you just traded one of the other trades was Davion Mitchell.
Yeah.
Mr. Night Off. Getting traded from the Raptors. Obviously, that's not that big of a deal. Looking at some of the other deals that have gone down, the Cavaliers acquired DeAndre Hunter and sent Karis LeVert, George Niang, and some picks back to the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks seem to go into sellers mode, also trading Bojan Bogdanovic to the Clippers for second-round picks and Terrence Mann. The teams that did not make a trade at the deadline were the Nuggets, Timberwolves, Magic, and Blazers.
Can you say that again? The Clippers gave up picks and Terrence Mann for Bogdanovic?
Yeah. A lot or not a lot?
I think
3
that's
second-round picks. 3 second-rounders and Bones Highland.
No, the Clippers are getting 3 second-round picks, right? Yeah. This makes more sense to me.
Why, do you think Terrence Mann's the piece over Bog?
Yeah, I would say so. He's younger. He's got higher upside and is very talented on the wing.
Yes.
He's been great for the Clippers.
The Clippers are acquiring, oh my God, dude, because I think Bog's better than Mann. So I think this is a complete.
He might be right now, but it's all the potential with Mann, right?
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Like you're trading for Mann's contract, which I believe is considerably better than Bojan's. Am I wrong? I don't know.
Sorry, Bronny's barking her ass off. The Phoenix Suns have traded Yusuf Nurkic to the Charlotte Hornets. So the Hornets get rid of Mark Williams. They get rid. Can you hear Bronny screaming?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
They get rid of Nick Richards and they bring in Yusuf Nurkic and they trade out Cody Martin. So both Martin twins, Caleb and Cody, get traded at the deadline. A 2026 second-round pick as well. So not that much happening, kind of just a dump off and absorbing a second-round pick and a contract for the Hornets. I really didn't like them getting rid of 2 athletic bigs next to the LaMelo. Like I felt like that was kind of a needed LaMelo developer, right? Patrick Baldwin Jr. and Cash are going to San Antonio from Milwaukee. Just a dump off for salary cap reasons. Like we said, Davion Mitchell is going to the Miami Heat, and PJ Tucker is also going to the Miami Heat. The Raptors are trading them a second-round pick and cash for the Heat to absorb things. Or the Raptors get a second-round pick?
Yeah, we're absorbing PJ Tucker's contract and trading Davion Mitchell to the Heat.
Chet Holmgren is expected to return. So throughout the deadline stuff and acquisitions and transitions, you can almost say that the Thunder reacquire Chet Holmgren into their lineup.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Jericho Sims goes from the Knicks to the Milwaukee Bucks for DeLon Wright. I actually felt like this was a win-win for both. Like Jericho Sims is a needed rebounding backup big for the Bucks.
Yeah.
The Knicks get a potential secondary playmaker besides Cameron Payne behind Brunson, who's very good defensively too, who's played in some big games before. So I actually think that's a win-win for both sides of what they needed. You get Marshawn Beauchamp has been traded from the Milwaukee Bucks to the Los Angeles Clippers for Kevin Porter Jr. That's pretty much it. Lonzo Ball, we said, re-signed for a 2-year, $20 million deal. A lot of stuff that happened.
Yeah.
6 NBA All-Stars have switched teams. Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis, Chris Middleton, Brandon Ingram to Drew's Raptors, De'Aaron Fox. I don't know, who's the last one that I'm missing?
Has Marcus Smart been an all-star? I thought he made an all-star team once, or it was close.
No,
wasn't
but
it?
a defensive player of the year
Yeah.
has also been traded as well. Drew, what do you think is the most important move besides take the Luka stuff out of it? Oh, Jimmy Butler was the last guy.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that you see is like sneakily very impactful? Any final thoughts worth talking about, or anything on your mind before we wrap up this 2-hour long trade deadline spectacular with now over 3,200 people who have checked out the stream?
That's crazy. Thank you, everybody, and people who are still here who have been watching the entire time. Shout out to you guys because I know I'm tired. Biggest move. Where do you have a list of all of them that you can put up? Is there a graphic for me?
Yeah, I do. I just saw one.
Wasn't it on Underdog?
I have it. Players in their new unis right there. Players cropped in their new unis. Does DeAndre Hunter make a splash for the Cavs?
I think the biggest impact move that we all knew was coming, though, which is why it doesn't feel like the biggest impact, is the Fox to the Spurs move. I think that is going to really, really unlock that team this season and going forward, especially with Wemby's contract, right? Like they have now a 3-year window where they have the best defensive player in the league, who's also somehow a top 20 offensive player at the same time, who's on a rookie contract, who's under the age of 22, paired with a former clutch player of the year, perennial all-star guard, and maybe the fastest player in the entire league, De'Aaron Fox. I think that those two looks going forward, that's the biggest needle mover, other than obviously Doncic is a Laker. Like, come on. But Fox to the Spurs is the one I'm going to be watching closest.
Obviously, the biggest news is Luka joining the Lakers. They will play their first game together on Saturday. Don't ask me what I'm doing. You already know the answer. The reason why I said, before we wrap up and get out of here, the reason that I said that I think Giannis is a minus 500 to eventually leave Milwaukee because of his comments after the Luka trade. We played Kevin Durant. We played Anthony Edwards. We need to talk about what Giannis said. He's always been trying to flirt with getting out. Every time he signed an extension with Milwaukee, it's almost been a reaction to something that they did. His first time he signed an extension, it was 2 days after acquiring Drew Holiday. The second time he signed an extension, it was 2 days after acquiring Dame Lillard. So if this doesn't go well and the Bucks don't have another piece that they could bring in because they're kind of keep kicking the can down the road, it's going to be Giannis who decides to leave Milwaukee. And this is what he had to say about foreign players in major markets and big cities.
I want Luka to the Lakers. I want Jokic to the Knicks. I want all the Europeans to go to all the big markets, to see something incredible. This is what I want. This is my dream.
That's
Step
ominous.
one. Step one accomplished.
If you're All right. That'll wrap us up for today. Drew and I will both be back on the live stream tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time as we go through Friday's games and get back to our normal style show where we are, of course, bringing in these amazing clips from the NBA, going over every single game, side total props, where the lines have moved, what's actionable, where our best bets have been, where our releases in the WAP have been given out. But all that stuff can be put aside because today was the trade deadline spectacular. It was the trade deadline of the century for the NBA. Like Kevin Durant saying it's the biggest trade in his lifetime. If KD says that, that shit is stamped for us all as basketball fans because he is a historian of the game. I really have to say a massive, massive, massive shout out as we wrap this up. Obviously, thank you to Drew. Obviously, thank you to the people who are listening. But the man who made this happen is Ian in the back, clipping things, getting our graphics ready. Like, look at these graphics that he made for us with the before and after, the compilation of the odds, strength of schedule, listing out all of the teams. He really made our lives incredible for this show. He made the show absolutely incredible. He was the one doing so much of the production in the back end. We really rely on Ian for his research abilities, for his advanced stats in prop angles, for his ability to give him some topics and say, hey, go look into, do some deep dives into this, go back test this theory. But occasionally this man fucking shows up for us in the content and the production side and is almost like a little producer of the show. So if anyone's in the chat right now, please just drop a big fucking Ian in the chat. IAN, 3 letters. We have a legend in the back. Thank you to Ian for the production. Thank you to Drew. Thank you to everybody who stopped by and tuned in. We will be back tomorrow morning, like I said, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And some words from Patrick Beverley as we say peace out. Apparently I have to walk Bronny. And y'all subscribe to my podcast while you asking all these questions.
Y'all subscribe to my podcast while y'all asking all these questions. Don't forget to subscribe to the pod. And if you're a kid, listen to your parents. Listen to your parents.
Listen to your parents.
Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe.
Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe to the pod, man. Good. Those are good.